can get these panels up back here instead of having to have an audio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dragon Con. So excited to see all of you. Now, I want to thank Podium for having this wonderful panel on LitRPG. What is it called? Books. I think it's called books. Yeah. No, but I have some wonderful panelists with me today. We'll get to your questions. I'm sure that's kind of my main point. Is I know it's a rare opportunity when we get to communicate with you, and you get to communicate with us in a form that's not on a computer. So this is a really special experience, and I want to make it the best for you guys. So definitely ask questions. If you have something to think about it, hold on, and we'll get to that at the end, okay? So thanks for being here. Thank you to our panelists for being here. These are just scribbles, but I brought it so I could do this. I've never been able to do that in my life, so here we go. All right. Thank you, Podium Entertainment, for bringing us out tonight. And I want to start off by asking a couple questions here, but I want to do a fun game first, just to break things up, a little icebreaker. So I came up with some different prompts to give to our authors here. We're going to create a character, an original character here today. All right, so the first one is the dialect, and that's from TJ. Okay, so he put, I did this to myself, it's okay, Golemic or Golem. Okay, so a Golem dialect. Now, what is a Golem, TJ?
I go by Rose, and a Golem,
Oh, Rose, I'm sorry.
Golem is a rock monster.
A rock monster, and isn't it some sort of like creation created by somebody else, a Golem? It's like given life, right? A construct.
Sometimes made out of clay from archetype.
So should we say it's a clay golem? All right, so that's our dialect. Our adjective is dribbly, which goes along, we didn't know this, but that's clay. It's very dribbly. A dribbly golem, and the animal is a hedgehog. So it's a dribbly golem based off a hedgehog, and the verb is swam. So the dribbly golem hedgehog swam. And what we need to do now is come up with a name for it. What do you guys think? Dennis. All right. I love it. Dennis, the dribbly golem, swam. So now we got to give him a voice, right? So if he's dribbly, if I'm getting this, I'm going to think that he's got kind of some sort of like mouth problem with a little bit of a, or maybe he's got a lot of phlegm in his mouth and he's trying to dribble it, right? You think that's kind of annoying. What if it's a main character and you have to do that the entire book? You guys are probably going to get annoyed at listening to that, so maybe he's a little more mysterious, and the dribbly part is he just kind of dribbles all over the place. Well, that wouldn't really work for the book either, would it? Because then you're not getting the words. So these are kind of the decisions we have to make when us as a narrator get a book from one of these wonderful writers. We take the cues they give us and create the voice based on that. Sometimes we nail it, and sometimes we get feedback that, why did you make that choice? So in that vein, I wanted to ask, how did you guys make the choice to start writing in LitRPG? What was kind of the impetus to say, I would like to write about this and not about cozy romance or any of the other million genres out there? Why don't we start with you? Oh wait, are you cozy romance?
I write cozy LitRPG rom-coms.
Oh well, yes, but that's so Rose, what was your impetus to start your journey in the LitRPG world?
Yeah, so I was a listener, and I was really stoked that I could do like MMOs basically without having to waste my life away. And I've always wanted to write epic fantasy, but it feels like gospel, and I was fucking terrified. So I'm sorry. So
It's fucking all right.
sorry, sister. Yeah, okay, so if you're an aspiring artist of any kind, perfectionism really is poison. It serves nothing. It helps with the editorial process only. So when I found LitRPG, I found a sense of I can too, and that like healed me. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll try a book. And then I like cracked out, and like 4 weeks later, I was like, shit, I have a manuscript. I should see what I should do with it. And then people liked it, which really blew my mind. And then I got triggered and freaked out, and had to go through a lot of self-healing and all that. And I was like, wait, I need more here. I think I'm right. So I wrote 30 more books.
Wow. Congratulations. Wonderful. Very good. All right, Mystic Neptune, do you have a story or something about how you got started?
Okay, so fun fact, I was hit by a piece of construction that wasn't tied down and lost all of my short-term and long-term memory of the English language, how to read music, every family member and friend I've ever met, and was bedridden for 8 months. And before that, I was a prolific reader, and I read a paperback a day. And so when I was finally ready to start reading again, I'd go to the library and I'd say, this looks amazing. And I'd read it and I'd remember the ending. And it was like someone was just spoiling the ending to every one of your favorite books or TV shows, like every single time. And my darling husband looked at me and he said, you know they translate novels daily, and I guarantee you haven't read them because they weren't in English yesterday. So then I switched over to reading translated novels every day, all of Legendary Moonlight Sculptor and Haylock, and then I went into the novel updates. I have 726 books registered on that right now. And then I wrote 9 books by the time I was out of high school, and then I switched into middle grade. But after my foray, Jolly was writing web novels on the Royal Road and having an absolute blast. And I looked at him and was like, I want to write a web novel now. That sounds amazing. So I just wrote a combination of what I had been reading, which was LitRPG-esque, Legends of Legendary Moonlight Sculptor stuff, but also the 700 Otome Japanese romance novels I had binged during that time as well. So, write what you know, or not.
Mike. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, Mike.
Yeah, you know.
All right. Love it.
My writing journey started with debilitating addiction.
It's like the most expensive addiction there is. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
You also have a really good Australian accent. Do you do narration too?
I was thinking of getting into it, yeah. I was asking.
It's very convincing.
Yeah.
It's a terrible job. Please don't think it.
Yeah, but similar to Rose, maybe it's bad to say, but I sort of read some stuff and thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
I got this. I didn't have that. No, it's a lot harder than you think. Or maybe not. The first manuscript I wrote, I think, was not great. It never been published. But yeah, so from there I sort of thought I could do it, started doing it. Seems to be going okay.
Yeah, you're here.
It's a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Still time.
Yeah. You can always mess it up, man. There's always
You
can sink the ship any day.
Yeah,
It's all good. Thank you. And do you have anything else we can? How you got started in the business?
Well, when I think of writing, I don't got this. Ended up going and doing English bachelor's in English, and then started doing postgraduate work in creative writing. And I was writing a story about Australian men across generations. And as part of that, I was doing just basically some context research on cross-generational post-colonial Australian masculinity, and I'm miserable, and I'm just like, I need to write a story where a wizard punches someone. So I dropped out the next day. Spent 2 years eating noodles and hot dogs unemployed as I worked on it, and then it started releasing it. Oddly worked out immediately.
Yeah, good. Very good. Thank you, guys. All right, so my next question. Lit RPG seems like such a niche genre. It's also, in my opinion, somewhat new as far as genres go, newer than some of the older ones. How do you guys find it differs writing Lit RPG and then writing other things? What kind of ideas or tactics do you have to keep in mind to write within the genre of Lit RPG? Let's start back over.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the differences is there's numbers in it.
Yeah.
That's the obvious one, but there's a lot of crossover, obviously. and a lot of people think that LitRPG was a genre. Stylistic approach to different genres, fantasy, sci-fi.
Well, that's interesting. It's a style placed upon a genre.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And the things you have to pay attention to are much the same ones that you do as approaching those other genres. Like, you know, there are stylistic elements of romantic comedies that you have to be aware of. You know, when you're writing any romantic comedy, if you're going to attach systemic elements to that, the thing that I think stands out for LitRPG is I compare it to showing the world. Like, because everyone can, it's out there to see for everyone what you're doing and how you're doing it. So you not only need to get that right and be consistent with it, but you also have to plan it out so that, you know, 2, 3, 4 books down the line, you haven't like blown out your thing, so suddenly your system doesn't fit your world building anymore because, you know, there's no challenge to your character because you can blow up the world with his fist. Like, if you plan that out, that's all good because, you know what you're doing, you've got a plan. But if you end up sort of pantsing your way through, all of a sudden you might just have no way to actually sort of continue your story in a logical way.
How do you keep having development when they've developed to their maximum
Yeah.
potential within the first? So you really have to
Yeah,
plan a little more.
so you know, I think it's, and I don't think it's that different from any hard magic system or sci-fi sort of tech setup. It's just a matter of making sure that your world building can encompass what it is that you're doing with the system.
And maybe building in that potential to grow so that you don't limit yourself too early.
Yeah, so like, for example, cultivation models, which are very similar to RPG in a lot of ways, have the idea of like your world has a level range, like a zoning WoW. And once you get through there, you go to the next stage and then it scales up, and that's, you know, certainly one way to do it. But you have to have something in mind so you don't write yourself just off the edge of the world.
Paint yourself in the corner. Right, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I got lost in Charles's eyes. Could you
It was his voice for me. I was just hopping down the road like a kangaroo, loving it. So, what does writing LitRPG for you? How does it differ from another type of writing? What is it, things that you have to take into account to start the process or the process?
Yeah, how it differs, I think, it's sort of hard to define. It does seem like it's more of a thing we can apply to any real genre, which I think is sort of the magic of it. Like, it's something new, it's something that we're still seeing evolve, and like even like the last 5 years, it's changed so much. Like, we've gone from super crunchy stories being the standard, where like, you know, you have like 50 abilities and they all have their own level of progression behind. Like, that was the standard, that's what everyone wants. And we've seen some series just transition in real time to sort of avoid these things.
I noticed.
As we notice, they become a bit cumbersome.
I have noticed from series that I've done book to book, there is a bit of an adjustment when they find what works. Maybe for the prior will keep that, and then something that maybe didn't, they might adjust it a little bit. We'll get to that in a little bit. I have a question about that, but thank you.
That's admin privilege, by the way.
It's admin privilege.
That's totally fine.
You have to adjust. I mean, it's like anything. You don't just keep doing something that doesn't work. That's insanity. So you have to adjust it, and you have to have that room to adjust. Good. Thanks. Appreciate it. And for you?
So I'll start with 3 catchphrases and expound on the last one. One is, the magic is numbers. The numbers go up. And all hail cliffhanger coup. So I do find that in LitRPG, a lot of our books come from web novel series. And in web novel series, you do not write web novels like you write a regular novel if you want people to come back. Because people are going to have to wait a week, sometimes 2, or maybe even just 1 day. So the idea is never to end your chapter on that satisfactory ending. You don't want people to go away feeling satisfied. You want them to go away angry that you ended it too soon. And so then you get into this, I need to read the next chapter, I need to know what find out happens next. And I do a lot of free assistance for people who are joining the genre who reach out to me, and I'll read a couple trad published authors have reached out to me from TikTok. It's like, would this work as a lit RPG, like something for Royal Road? And I'm like, no. You have to cut this here, not here. You need to be in the middle of the conversation. If you're walking down the road and you're waiting for someone, you do not meet that person, have a good conversation with them, and end the chapter. No, you walk down the road and you hear a noise. Maybe that's there. You end the chapter, and that's the cliffhanger coon, which I think is a big staple of what has become a trope in our genre and the world building of our genre.
It almost seems to just to piggyback on that, there's some sort of resolution within the chapter, so you don't feel like they're just leaving everything, but then a new thing happens to do a cliffhanger.
You resolve the previous chapter
Yes.
and instigate the next chapter, and then end on like a really good point or a good question or a good literally I've seen chapters do really well stopping in the middle of a conversation.
Very good, thank you. And for you, differing, or as we've heard, it maybe doesn't differ at all from writing other. I know it carries over a lot of the same practices that work for both any kind of genre, but for lit RPG, are there specific things that differ for you?
Yeah, Shirt said most of the good stuff, which was
So I went to him first.
yeah, it was all good. I liked what you said, and I kind of forgot it now. I was going to relate it to a formatting decision. Oh, showing the math. Yeah, that's kind of what it was. Yeah, I got relief. It's like a formatting decision, so I just think of it as like we're writing fantasy, I don't know, and then you're just showing the magic system. And I like it because I've always liked hard magic systems that you can kind of touch. But then I do have a little bit creamy of lit RPG in general. I know that's a gross word, but that's what the readers said. I don't know. But because I like to leave in a little like the Order of the Secret Fire, like Gandalf wand-waving bullshit, because I like to give that shadow behind the hard system where you're like,
It's like a promise.
wait, what was that? There's something deeper, and then I'm like, I won't explain it. and it's me cackling behind the desk because it's very funny. So it wasn't an accident, it was on purpose.
You do want to keep some of the history.
Yes, otherwise it sucks.
Yeah, I like the smoke and mirrors aspect, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, that you're pulling the strings, you're feeding tidbits, red herrings, those kind of things, but also building out what's going to happen so that it's logical when it does happen. You go, oh, that makes sense, and not just jumps the shark. That transitions to lit RPG is incredibly popular right now. I see it growing and growing. In my career, probably 5 years ago, I wasn't doing many, and now I'm doing quite a bit. I'd say the majority, about halfway of lit RPG. So it's something that's growing, but I'm noticing it seems very popular, especially in audio. Do you see, from your perspective, what do you think audio is appealing to people who are listening to lit RPG, and why do they marry together so well? Yeah, got a thumbs up.
I do, I'm ready. Statistically speaking, the predominant amount of people who read and listen to lit RPG, I'm calling it, are over 30. We have a lot of people in college and going between jobs, but when they're in college, they're still usually listening to the audiobooks on the train on their way to classes, or they are working individuals who have to do laundry for 3 hours and they need something to listen to because they don't have that high school capacity to binge read a paperback a day. And so it's just become a really good medium for them to escape into while they're doing their basic chores. And because there is a satisfaction of leveling up, it's kind of, you can equate it to when I finished my laundry. I have also leveled up.
I do it all the time now. I'm like, good job. You
You
cleaned up. You did a major task.
Yeah, what's it? You're grinding. I'm grinding my laundry. You're grinding those wolves like we're saying.
That's lovely. I agree too that there's something with the listening, and to me it ties into video games. When we're playing video games, there's voice actors in video games and there's voice acting in audiobooks. I think those two kind of go together. But I didn't ask myself. You'll move on down the line.
Yeah, I think the audio serves the prose we use mostly. I think the prose generally in LitRPG, commercial fantasy, cultivation is a bit more simple than your standard fantasy. Yeah, which isn't to say it's bad. Just a lot of people sort of conflate that with meaning it's basic, but it's by design. It's intentional. It's more accessible. It's relaxing. It uses less of your brain, and I think it's this could be me jumping to conclusions, but I think it's sort of a reflection of the way the world is at the moment. It's very chaotic. I think people are more looking for relaxation and things that are easily accessible in that manner.
I like what you said, the clarity. I don't think it's simplicity in writing, it's clarity. And that simplicity is born of that clarity. They're very clear about what's happening. And I think it's also because it's heavily structured. The magic, the world needs to have that structure. And I find that's helpful, especially when listening to, the bounds of what you're listening to.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad I answered that before Shirtaloon.
Yeah, Travis. That would have stolen everything. Yeah.
No, I think part of it is that a lot of the people who are drawn to LitRPG are people who are already engaging in sort of more modernized aspects of consuming their entertainment. So, streams, YouTube, all of that stuff. So they're more sort of natively drawn towards, the digital audio rather than, paperbacks or even ebooks.
I think also too, to me, people that like LitRPG tend to be collectors. And with LitRPG, there's different ways to collect your stories. You can have a physical copy, you can have an audio performance by somebody else. I think that appeals to the sense of gotta get them all.
Yeah, I wanted to jump on the simple writing thing. That was just really well. Okay, so when Shirt blew up, right, I was part of an authors group, no names mentioned, and a lot of them were knuckleheads that didn't really know what they were doing craft-wise, but they were still cranking out books and making money. It is what it is in the genre, right? And some people were very upset by your writing. It's so basic. Who writes like that? How is it? And I'm like, Shirt has a degree, and he was either a technical writer or has a journalist. He had a background. And then they're like, no, that's not true at all. And I'm like, you write sentences that clean and concise for a chapter straight. You can, because you're not that good yet. I didn't say all of it. It's kind of a pain in the ass to clip back writing, and it takes a lot more work to do so usually. I'm not that great at it yet. I'm getting better. But if I go with the wrong editor, I've had an editor once who was like, I'm going to add some stuff. And I'm like, you just made my shit purpler. Yeah. Purple prose is when it's all fancy. You've got 9 adjectives per flashy word, right? It just makes you want to vomit. But yeah, that clean, relaxing listen is so addictive. And also, in general, truckers buy my goddamn audiobooks. I love you so much. You're safe out there. Take a rest stop and thank you, truckers.
I would agree with that. I don't know how many truckers I've had contact me, and they are the kindest, best fans I've ever heard. They're like, thank you so much. I'm on the road and listening. And it's a wonderful experience to share that with somebody in any way or form that you're listening. So it's just such a special thing to do. And when people reach out like that, it just makes my week, It's such a great thing.
And on 3 times speed.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. You can listen to it to 20 times speed as long as my name's on the book and I'm getting paid.
Your 220K epic lasted 6 hours. Thanks. Do you have many more happening?
You just set me up for my next question. I love it, Rose. Thank you. So how do you handle that need for quantity over quality? So obviously you want to put out the best stories you can, but when you're hitting a chord with people, they want more, they want more, they want more. So how do you try to give the people what they want while also making sure it's up to standards? You started us off, so let's go right
Yeah, I
back
have
to
great
you.
advice for that. You should burn out.
Yeah.
I did like 26 in 2 years, or like 25 months or something, and then had like a mental health crisis. It's a whole wild thing. So I suggest like you ignore a little bit of the pressure, right? And you're gonna have your own pressure is more intense than what the fans can do anyway. So just try to breathe. If you actually hit success, get a therapist and like breathe through that like imposter syndrome. And I had nightmares that Amazon was gonna take my money. They were gonna hit me up and then I'd lose my house. And I was just like, oh God, like I've never made money before in my life. So you just have to go slow and write what you love and just stick with yourself. But cracking out will lead to very bad burnout.
And it does seem from all of your answers that some sort of difficulty has kind of propelled you into this genre, which I think is a good thing. It's not coming into it just, everything's fun, but that also mirrors, I think, the arc of a lot of the characters. They're not static characters, I found in LitRPG. They have to progression, they have to change, they have to grow better. And to me, that's fascinating because that's like the #1 human condition that I think we all need to learn is that we can constantly grow and get better. And here's this whole genre supporting that idea. And I find it so wholesome and wonderful. Anyways, Miss Haylock.
Okay, so I write 500 words a day if I'm lucky,
Okay.
but I was really prolific with my first book because I didn't have to remember anything. And I am a pantser by heart, and I have a head injury, so my capacity for remembering anything is kind of shot. So the two things that really helped me were keeping track of minute details that seemed interesting that might pop up later. But for getting my series out and continuing at a very steady rate, it was going web serial for me because I might take a year or two to write something very small. But the second I had 3,000 people begging me for my next chapter because it suddenly blew up. But even if you have one person, I remember putting out my chapters, and even if I get one person who likes it, I have made a connection and I really want to write to that person. And unlike a lot of my friends who suffered, I made a backlog before putting my work out. So I could drop, 15 chapters the first week and be seen a lot on the novel or recent updates, which is a tip I recommend. Making some really interesting or funny chapter titles, so people are like, oh, even if it doesn't look good, like the chapter title is really funny, so maybe I'll click on it. And then when you have someone, like even when I was making my backlog, I had one friend who was just messaging me every day, and she's like, where's your next chapter? I need it right now, like right now, please give it to me right now. And on the days I didn't want to write, her message to me would have me sit down and write an entire chapter in 30 minutes instead of 8 hours. So I did find if you're struggling to put out work, go put some of your work out there, and if you see that people love it, that is an inspiration in itself. And if you have a Patreon and you have 170 people who paid you for a chapter on Wednesday and it is Tuesday night, it's due at 10 a.m. in the morning, if you haven't written that chapter, I promise you, you're gonna write that chapter. And you're gonna be really good. And one of the nice things about our genre that we pump out so much work is because we have those deadlines, our publishers have a steady trust in us in a way because they know that we have an audience that are expecting that work. So they can expect the work to be finished in a certain amount of time, and we have a very good relationship in that way as well.
Lovely answer, thank you.
I'm glad you're submitting your manuscripts on time.
I am
Sorry.
submitting them on time.
Yeah, I think for most of us, Patreon is massive, or even just Royal Road, choose your web service. Is a massive motivator for getting words out. I think you joked yesterday that that's your your motivation. Like that's my thing that's pushing you to it.
That's not a joke. Like, I'm very bad at meeting distant deadlines, but give me short, regular deadlines, and I'll actually, well, I won't take it off my bum because, you know, I sit down and write. But, yeah, that constant sense of motivation really helped me develop more discipline towards writing. But, like, if we're talking about quantity versus quality, I think it's sort of I think a lot of people burn out early on, like cranking out as much as they can. And I think it's really just a matter of sort of practice and experience to find the level, because there is a spectrum of quality to quantity, and just finding your level is just really something that takes time.
It does sound too, from what I'm hearing, is you're focusing on the baby steps, not the overall forest. So to mix metaphors, you're thinking, well, I got to finish this book. No, I got to write 500 pages today. I just did it today. 500 words. Yeah, 500 pages, but one word.
500 words times 365 is 96,000 words, which is a novel. If you write 500 words a day, you will have a novel at the end of the year.
And you don't get better without doing that.
We're math people.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to wrap it up because I bet you there's going to be some questions and I don't want to run out of time. But I do want to just end with a couple questions here. Yeah, no, I don't want to go too far. So, LitRPG is kind of the Wild West, I think, of this genre that's changing, and anything is possible at this stage. And we're kind of creating, we meaning everyone here, creating what the content is by what's popular, and we can change it. How do you see or expect it to change in the future? And I'll give an answer just to kind of help spur it along. I see some sort of integration with moving graphics. You know, on music, iTunes, if you look now on the album cover, it kind of subtly moves the album cover. I think there's going to be some sort of, I don't know how it's going to work, but whether or not there's some sort of graphic movement along with the audio, at least in my opinion. I think we'll see a little more of that. Do you see I forget what I said. Do you see where it's going, or anything that you kind of see the industry moving towards in the future?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll just spitball a little bit. LitRPG is cool because of how it was created. Like, there's a lot of online influence, right? I haven't said hi to the dude yet, but like the Royal Road is here. The Mr. Road. And it's crazy because like the Zon is a machine that it's like a beast in and of itself, and algorithms have shaped the way we do everything, period. And they make or break success on their own, and you can't predict it. You can kind of, but there's no like metrics, so it's guessing in the dark. But then we have Royal Road, which has all these other different metrics happening, and it's a really cool collision. And then we've got a bunch of indie publishers that are putting in their own thing, and right now it's kind of just exploding. And then we've got Daddy Denneman. I don't know if you guys have met him. He's my daddy. You see Dungeon Daddy. He's my daddy. Yeah, I'm sorry. He's really sweet. That's why he's daddy. He's just a very nice guy. Anyway, he just kind of like set off an explosion, and now he's got a very trad published cover, and he's going to be in a lot of stores, and he's going to be roping in people that we just did not see before. So I have no clue where it's going.
And is his the first that's been picked up by a TV series?
Oh, I don't know if we're...
Are we talking about Dungeon Carl?
Can we say that yet?
Yeah.
We can't say that.
I saw it.
The last time I heard this, shut up.
So I think we're going to see more of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope I didn't just blow up the spot.
No, you did good.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a little tidbit for everyone. They get a little bonus for hearing it.
NDA.
Yeah. Sign.
I signed nothing!
Yeah, I think we're good. And you see it changes things in the future?
I write romance LitRPG, so I feel like a lot of genres are adapting. A lot of people who love LitRPG have written other genres of LitRPG now, and it's starting to branch out a little bit. So we have some romance, we have some cozy fantasy LitRPG, and I do feel like the magic system itself is starting to bleed out everywhere. I'm in these giant, 2 million person fantasy Facebook groups, and people will be like, hey, I'm looking for this, but not LitRPG, because the last two days ago, they asked for that exact same thing, and they got 500 recommendations for Shirtaloon's book. And they're like, but there are numbers. I also do feel like trad is going places. Orbit's been offering some stuff. I do think as well that trad is going to realize that a lot of the classical LitRPG authors, we talk. It's very different from what I experienced when I was trad publishing. Everyone in the LitRPG space talks to each other. I know all of the different publishers, I know their general rates, I know the general narrators and who's doing what and what Matt Dinneman's doing, and if I wanted to, I have reached out to Travis Baldry and Steve, other people who do narration or
I must have missed
publishing.
the email. I think we went to junk mail, which is probably.
And
Luke's an aspiring narrator.
And they will just talk to me on Discord. We'll do like an hour-long meetup out of nowhere because the space is so community focused. And so we are having a lot of trad stuff coming in, and a lot of people are talking. And well, what is trad going to do? Are you only offering the cave? Because I can just indie publish that. Yeah, so I feel like it's going to be a really interesting time to watch as trad takes on LitRPG and realizes that Podium has been doing LitRPG for all this time and offering twice the royalty rates and duet narration and a way better family connection where I can just chat with the publishers themselves and hang out with them. Shadow Alley, I think, takes all of their authors, like, they give really good percentages and takes all their authors to Italy for retreats every year. So, like, you know, there are choices of it. Anyway, that's my
Choices and respect. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how they cut it.
Just two quick ones to wrap up, and then we'll get to their questions because I think they're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just add on to what you guys have said there. Since you brought up Dinneman, had a very fun conversation yesterday where he recounted his meeting of the youth.
Oh, it was horrible. He totally embarrassed me. I love it.
Yeah, he fangirled so hard.
Well, at first I didn't get it, and then I was like, oh, Dungeon Dragon.
I think I heard it. Yeah.
And then we had to do an interview for social media, and he totally called me out, and he's like, why don't you do your Elmo impersonation? And then I had to do it, and it was really bad and embarrassing, and he's just sitting there like, yeah. Crash and burn, Daniel, crash and burn.
Yeah, that was very fun. Secondhand. And yeah, the like trad and those sort of a lot of things that are coming to LitRPG over the next few years are kind of insane. Like, I think it's a massive credit to Podium, recognizing years ago the opportunity. Because some of them were a big risk, but obviously paid off big time. Paid off big time. But yeah, there are for sure a lot of things coming that are still NDA'd.
Yes.
Yeah,
We'll see more and more of that.
Absolutely. The next few years are going to be very exciting.
Yes, I agree.
I think a lot of the future of LitRPG comes from the authors who are still coming into the space right now.
Yeah.
Like the people who are coming in, and they're doing the exact same thing we did. They're looking at what's out there and going, what if we added numbers? And because, I really think LitRPG is a stylistic approach to something else. So I think the future of LitRPG is just expanding that envelope as people take on more and more of what's possible to approach in the way that we do. And so I think genre expansion, and I think is going to be a big part of the future of LitRPG, and if only because that's going to bring more and more genre audiences into the fold.
Like a snowball effect, I think it does. It brings in more.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Wonderful. All right, so if we have any questions, you want to start lining up, we can run through that. Yes, sir.
Hello all.
You sound great. Beautiful.
Thank
Good
you.
register.
My question is, in regards to your own books, what is the coolest piece of world building or lore that you created, and in which book is that? So, yeah.
Your favorite part, there's something that you've created lore-wise that really sticks with you. Start down there.
Oh,
Grab.
see, this is the problem. The favorite question is always like, what's your favorite thing? And it's like, it's whatever I just did
So,
last.
your favorite, what's something that
So I took an Australian and I put him in a magic world, and it's worked out pretty well.
I hate answering this question because I hate talking about myself.
Right.
That's okay. Yeah. A part of vertical fishing that I really enjoy is the aspect of the world that the main characters arrived in, it being broken, things not working correctly, and sort of the slow healing or the slow fixing of that to sort of unfurl the way it was always supposed to be.
Setting things right.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to write, and it seems to have hit a chord with all the readers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thankfully.
Yes. Mystic?
I really love trope breaking. I love setting up traditional tropes and then not doing that. Like the main characters are about to confess their love to each other, and they're suddenly about to do it, and they hear a knock on the door, and it's her friend has arrived, and no, we have to put this off till tomorrow. And the friend looks at them and goes, "You guys look like you're having a really conversation. I could just wait 5 minutes. It'll be fine." And then she does, and then they
It's so satisfying.
like set it up and not do that.
Yeah. Which actually feels more realistic. That's how things work.
Yeah, it's like, you guys could just finish your conversation. I can wait 5 minutes, it's fine.
Yeah. This seems important. I'll hold off. Yeah.
I can tell this.
I like to have nuances with historical and like religious interpretation. So, like Dune does some really weird stuff, right, with using history as prophecy and vice versa. It's so weird timeline-wise. But in this one, I had like 3 main nations, and they all have a very different interpretation of what's happened in the world. And they have different pantheons, and those pantheons interact, and the pantheons are real because gods are created by like the belief of men. So there's like really tangible results from like what you believe happened. And I don't know, it's sort of true today too, like in the real world.
Well, it's empowering, isn't it? That if you believe something worked towards it, it'll happen.
Yeah, and it can be devastating too.
Yeah, because it
You're
doesn't
like, that war did not happen.
Please.
So Mystic touched a little bit on this earlier, but as self-published authors or web serial authors, the interaction with your fan base or potential fan base is very different than traditional publishing. Do you find interacting with your fans online a burden or a joy? And do you, when the parasocial relationship develops and when it goes, like, how do you deal with that, and what do you like or dislike about it?
Good question. I'll just start, even though you didn't ask me, you asked them, but it is absolutely amazing. Amazing. Even when I get negative stuff, because I learned from that. And I had a guy write me, he's like, I'm from Scotland, your Scottish accent sucks, mate. You know, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what can I work on? He's like, we don't say it like it is. And he would be really mad right now that I did that, but it's very helpful, even the negative stuff.
I love and hate it. Like, I love the love that comes for the people notice shit about your writing that you don't notice. You're just like, wow, that was steep. And then, yeah, I found some really grueling beta readers that are like, you sucked here. And I'm like, can I have your email? Can we be friends? And, but the hard part is the pressure. I'm not good at staying online, and I feel like I'm always failing and can't be there as much. So Facebook's dangerous for some people. I just can't like do it daily. It's not a thing.
It's a balance that you find within yourself, right? Yeah.
I'm a social media queen. I spend so much time on social media, and I love talking with people. And one of the things I love about starting on Royal Road is that every single chapter, your readers can leave comments and edits. And I I absolutely immediately reach out to anyone who has solid edits and say, hey, do you want to be a beta reader? You get free access to all of my literature. My beta readers get access to my primary Google document with every single thing in it. They can watch me write the chapters as I'm going and make comments. And one of the things that I was very lucky is that I read queer normative, but I went super gentle at the very beginning. So it was things like jokes about free healthcare. And my first negative review was, this was funny as hell, but I can't take the left-wing propaganda because I mentioned free healthcare. So by the time we got to the lesbian wedding, and, like, they were all gone. So that was great.
That's all that.
That was perfect. Which means that I'm very fortunate. I haven't had a lot of really bad vitriol. I've seen some really awful stuff come to my friends. So I feel like as long as you have the capacity to recognize before going in that those people's comments are from a place of hate or from a place of, I want this to be better, so I'm telling you, I'm a grammar person, I'm just going to tell you every single mistake you make. They're doing it because they love your work and they're coming back every chapter to do that. And it is okay to just block people if they don't agree with you or if they attack you as a person as opposed to your writing. So as long as you accept that and you're okay with it and you go forward, then like that relationship will always be healthy because you'll always be talking to people who are building a relationship that's healthy with you.
Do you mind if we move to the next question instead of, do you guys have something do you want to throw out real quick? But I want to get through everybody.
No, go for it. Yeah.
All right. Was that good for you, bud? That was a good question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I know there's a lot of authors in the audience, and the statement about long-haul truckers, I think resonates with a lot of us. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is very willing, how willing would you be to dedicate your next book to long-haul truckers? 10. That's a question for everybody in the room. I give every author in the room. Our next books all come out for long-haul truckers. I want to see if it starts showing up on Facebook or long-haul truckers. Has anybody noticed that every single book in the last year has been dedicated to us?
Do you know someone's writing a Shirtaloon LitRPG right now?
I can. Of course. No, I've never heard that. I
They're doing it right now. It's where they are the truck and it levels up.
Yeah.
They are the truck.
Yeah, so anyway, 1 to 10.
Is there a narrator for this?
I can be a
Mack truck, whatever you need.
Hit me up in the West and I'll try and find it in my list. Sorry.
So would you?
10.
10.
You're doing a truck next?
What?
Truckers?
That's a dedicated.
Dedicated
Oh, okay,
truckers.
truckers.
Yeah, no, actually, I started writing a truck thing actually too, but I dropped it after like.
Did your book start off as a dedication and just got way out of hand?
The dedication just became prose. So yeah, I think it's all 10s, right?
Yeah, 10.
We love our.
We like
Truck
truck
drivers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll dedicate my next book.
Yes, it's a commitment.
Yeah.
Hi. So I feel like when I look online, new books or stuff, I often see the comments, and obviously nobody up here.
Sorry, you're actually checking them right now?
I wrote my thing down because I would forget it by the time I got up here. So I see like this is just like the author's like overpowered self-insert kind of a thing, but when you guys have been writing your books, has there been like a secondary or like a side character, you're like, no, this is my favorite, you get extra screen time because you're my baby?
Good
Yes.
question.
And then like, is there any, like a character that like jumps to your mind specifically for something
Yeah,
like
do you
that?
have a specific character that you moved up because you liked him so much?
Yeah, there was one that jumps to mind immediately in a fiction that isn't going to come to Amazon. It's not Roy Road, but one of the characters, he like started as what the book was, but he couldn't be a main character. He was too much of a silly goose. Like he's just constantly, he levels up by messing with people. He levels up by being a menace, and he's just so fun. But he can never be a main character because he would just be too much. But, yeah.
I have a character named Tiger. And yeah, he started off basically as a henchman. And I just, kind of completely fell in love with him, and I had a need for a character to fit a certain slot. So he just became it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I killed someone in this one. I wrote him to die, and he broke my heart so bad. I cried like a bitch. When I did the death scene and also the grieving scene, and there's a lot of significance in there. But I had to just bring him back for like, in book 2, he'll be echoes throughout the entire series because he's such a sweetie, and I got in so much trouble. How did you? And I'm like, I know he was really charming.
I definitely don't kill off characters. I'm not allowed to. I just have to read. But I do have characters that if I do, sometimes I'll do a voice and I'm like, I really like this guy. I'll cast him in the next book. And there's kind of like, you'll see like a zeitgeist, if you listen to like 10 books in a row that I've just released, you're like, wow, he's using that guy a lot. Like, he's showing up and everything. He's really hot right now. I think of him in my head like different actors that have popped. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is the Sydney Sweeney of my characters. I'm going to definitely ride that train all the way. I do a great Sydney Sweeney. Anybody, did we get everybody? All right.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm good.
Gerda the Bridge Troll. She gave the first crossing. She had to get, my main character had to cross a bridge, and it was like, what room has no windows and no doors? A mushroom. She was so happy, and so she stayed with Gerda the Bridge Troll and made cookies that afternoon, and then she brought them to the like she was going to fight the Dark Lord, but she arrived with like some scones, and she's like, hi guys, I'm sorry you have to like be the minions, here's some scones. And then I had to like, Gerda, she's like, there's tea parties all the time now.
Yeah, so it created almost a new aspect in the books through that character. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, folks. So, Mystic, I think that you mentioned that you always aim for cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Which keeps the readers engaged. But how do you balance something like that with creating a satisfying conclusion to your story, whether that's a book or a collection of chapters or however you want to define it?
This is a lit RPG. I think all of us never end our stories. but I do have, the end of each of my books, because I write romance, is they're couples. So they end as a couple, and then it goes to the next story, which is told entirely from another person's couple, like another relationship. So I changed to POVs and I lost 8,000 readers by doing that. No regrets though.
Because you grow, you probably get new ones.
Everyone commented and they're like, but where's the main characters from the first book? Like, they're in there. But, I did get new ones. I got a 1,600 new ones.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think the arcs and the books usually conclude in a satisfying way. The problem is when releasing a web serial with the cliffhangers is both infuriating to some of them and also is what brings them back. But when you read it as a book, I think it actually, personally, I think it really improves it a lot over the traditional, wrap up the chapter and then it's easy to just put it down. And I have ADHD, I'll just forget the book exists if it lands under a shirt or something. I think the first time I read He Fights with Monsters, I was like, what is this? What is going on? These chapters keep hooking me. What's happening? Yeah, so that was sort of a wake up moment to be like, oh, okay, this is a way to narratively structure it, as long as the arc of the book still have a satisfying conclusion. You don't want to, some people do the cliffhanger at the end of the book. I'm not a fan. That's
Yeah, I think when you do it chapter by chapter, once they're collected into a book, it stops becoming cliffhangers and it becomes page turners, and that's not new. It's and I think it's really just a matter of perspective when you go to turn the page and oh crap, I have to wait 2 days for the next chapter. And I think a lot of those problems are remedied by turning them into page turners instead of cliffhangers.
And I've noticed with the great authors, there's a subtlety to your cliffhangers. Instead of it's just, they're having a conversation and then there's a knock at the door. You know what I mean? That doesn't quite, as opposed to, like you said, mid-conversation, someone makes a declarative statement. Well, how's he going to react? I got to turn the page to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels less, I think of it less as cliffhangers, more like teasers.
Yeah.
So like I want to have each chapter be satisfying in its own right, but then there's a teaser.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
Have any of you written retro
That's one for next time.
All right, question for Shirtaloon, kind of losing my voice, but did you develop essences for Australian animals like wombats, or did you build most of your essence / world with a broader appeal in mind?
Yeah, I really wanted to be like broader appeal. Obviously, anyone who's read my series will recognise that there's a lot of Australianism in there. But if I'm being so Australian that nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about, either I've messed up or I'm trying to mess them up. So yeah, sometimes I'll do it specifically to be obtuse, like just to highlight that Jason's a weird guy and he's doing it on purpose. But most of the time, I want it to be at least approachable.
Good. Thank you. Good question.
Little Birdie told me you had a good Elmo.
Oh my God.
Alright, I'm only gonna do this once, you fucking asshole!
Did Dinman send you? I think so. Dinman sent me.
My question was kind of like narrator too. Like, how do you guys, as authors, choose your narrator? Like, what's the relationship between you guys once it gets chosen? Of all the awesome narrators there are in the world.
Well, thanks. So. We get chosen by trial by combat. So we get two narrators in a room and we have a voice off. We're like, chapter 1, and the other one's like, chapter 1. That's the one. What about you guys? How do you pick your narrators?
Oh, Phil, I have to thank Shirt for finding Heath.
Heath is awesome.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. As soon as I didn't think about it writing it, but as it came to finding a narrator, I was like, oh, I have an Australian MC. And it's hard to find a good, I think it has to be a native speaker. I think Australia's is one of those really hard accents.
What are you talking about, mate?
Except for the
We're talking about the Australian accent, bloke.
It's not like as if it was big in the RPG space beforehand, but
I think also to piggyback, a lot of that comes from the publisher. So Podium is a publisher for a lot of these titles, and they are very good at picking and presenting people to the authors and say, what do you think, right? And then you guys, sometimes it works out.
Yeah, for me with Heath, they were just presented to people, and it's like not quite right. Like the Australian accent, pretty damn good, except then they'll hit like one word and just go clunk. It's like, can you find? No more. And but then they brought Heath, and I'm like, wait, no, this sounds right. So I just got my friends in the room. I thought, listen to this, and he's like, yeah, no, this sounds right. And then just picked Heath immediately. And I think a lot of authors have very different relationships with their narrators. Like for me, I'm very trusting in Heath to get it right. So I'll give him basically a set of notes less about what I want characters to sound like, and rather like who the characters are, especially if like it's information from later books. So he can within himself find the right voice.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to when you work with an author for several years. Like if I've worked with Kevin Hearn for my entire career, I started out, I think 13 years ago. We establish a relationship. I'll go to book signings with him, and we work on stuff independently where we'll produce stuff that way. So we have a very collaborative relationship. And then I have authors that I've never spoken to and never met. I got the book through a publisher. They're very hands-off. They trust the process and let somebody else do it. So it's really up to that person. But I have noticed with the onset of fans and the integration of everybody that there's a lot more cross-reading, so to speak, between authors, fans, and narrators, where we kind of all try to work together. Great question.
Thank you.
Thank you. 3:30. Look at that. I got the wrap-up signal. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cody.